Hello, welcome to Trend Settings episode 81. It's not 80, it's 81, guys.
Wow.
I can't believe you thought that.
Wow.
Anyway,
Divisible by
we've got
9.
crazy things happening this week. We got two guests this week.
Woohoo!
We got Nick Koo and the Google Home, which as yet to I have not named. Maybe we can do that by the end of the podcast. And of course, this is Trend Settings where we're going to watch trending every week. My name's Ali. Hey Google, introduce yourself.
I'm your Google Assistant, and I can play music for you.
Man, she's got so much better projection than I do. I'm Jono.
I'm Nick.
Thanks for joining us. First of all, we have a cricket topic, and then we talk about a Deadpool script, and then we talk about gonorrhea, and then we talk about Pauline Hanson being as great as Nelson Mandela. Is it true? Is it not? We'll get to the bottom of it. Hopefully.
Spoilers, it is not.
But first up, cricket. People are really riled up about the cricket.
Yeah, so on, I think it was last Saturday or last Friday, England is playing a test match against New Zealand. And they go out to bat, right? As you do, when you're batting first in a test match, you're probably aiming for a score of about 300, 350. If it's a tough wicket, maybe 250 is good.
Sure.
But you're aiming for about that many runs on the board. And they got bowled out for 58.
Wow.
The worst score that England's ever produced was 45. And they managed to beat it by 13. So that's really crap.
So England did crap.
England did crap.
Yeah.
And everyone was probably thinking this weekend, that is going to be the cricketing story of the weekend. England just imploded. One of the worst scores we've seen in a few years. One of their worst scores ever. They're definitely their worst score against New Zealand ever. And
boy, were they wrong.
They were so wrong. So we wake up on Sunday morning to the news. So Australia's playing South Africa in South Africa. So the game mostly happens in the middle of the night when everyone else is asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we're asleep, they're probably awake in South Africa. Anyway, we find out in the morning that one of our players, while our team has been fielding, so while the Australian team was fielding, so they're bowling the ball at the batsman. I'm trying to keep this as non-cricket like jargony as possible.
Yeah, because I am a little bit confused as to what the actual problem was.
So the teams take turns obviously to bat and bowl, right?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
So it was when the South Africans were batting,
Yep.
so the Australians are bowling.
Yep.
Now the art of bowling involves quite a lot of very complicated aerodynamics.
Sure does.
But this is the dumbed down version. When the ball is new, so you start off with a brand new ball. It's got two sides, a left and a right. It's got one seam that runs around the middle of it. Traditionally, so when you first start, one side you go, that's going to be my shiny side. The other side, I'm just going to let that get rough. And they basically polish it on their pants on the shiny side.
Yep.
And the difference between the two sides means that the ball will go from, when it's flying through the air with the seam upright, it will curve towards the shiny side.
Right.
No, sorry, rough side.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's called conventional swing.
Sure.
So that's the technique of bowling.
Yeah, and now there's 6 balls and over. You get 80 overs with that ball
Right.
Same ball.
before they change the ball. So
Sure.
basically, if the batting team's going on for long enough, the ball gets too old and you replace it. So
Gotcha.
it happens at the 80th over. Generally, when the ball's getting really old, something different happens because of the depth of the gouges that go into like the rough side of the ball.
Hmm.
It'll start doing something called reverse swing.
Ooh.
This is the king of swing.
Oh.
Because a good batsman can see which side of the ball is shiny and which side is rough as it's coming out of the hand. And they know which way. Yeah, it's crazy. They must have really good eyesight, but it's crazy. Like, say they know kind of which way the ball should move through the air. But this thing happens with the aerodynamics. It's really complicated, but like something to do with the shiny side starts to get a little bumpy because of like they'll put spit on it and they polish it and all this stuff. And the rough side, the little dents and stuff and little cuts on the ball will get deeper and deeper until they stop behaving like they were.
Right.
So basically what happens is it'll actually start curving towards the shiny side.
Right.
And that's just like really hard for a batsman to play because they train to play the exact opposite movement.
Right.
So they're reacting on a split second. They have 0.8 of a second between the ball leaving the bowler's hand and then getting to them. They react on instinct basically, right? And when the ball starts reversing, it's really easy to get teams out.
Right.
So this thing happens in cricket where people will tamper with the ball because they're trying to generate this thing called reverse swing.
Right.
Usually it means roughing up the side that's already rough because you want it to get too rough so that it starts swinging the other way. And or doing something to the shiny side, like putting like a lozenge on it. So this is other stuff that people like they'll be sucking a lozenge, and because their saliva gets really sticky.
Maybe?
Yeah, butter menthol, whatever.
I love butter menthol.
It's the sugar syrup, I think. But they'll put that stuff on the shiny side. But anyway, we wake up on Sunday morning. This is not a thing that the Australian team does. The Australian team has never really been caught cheating.
They just
other
abuse
teams
everyone.
have. Yeah, we sledge the crap out of everyone.
Yeah.
We have these like magic lines where what we do is okay, but what other people do isn't. But we woke up on Sunday morning to our captain, Steve Smith, admitting that he and a leadership group of players conspired to use tape. This is what they said. They used yellow tape from their kits with a bit of dirt on it to try and scuff the ball.
Right.
Like almost using it like sandpaper.
What?
And the newest player on the team, his name's Cameron Bancroft, was the one who actually did it.
Right.
The reason they got caught is because at first the TV cameras were kind of paying attention. So this is a thing that generally happens to the visiting side, because the camera people, the people who operate the cameras, are on the side of the home team. Because like you're the South African TV station, you're on the side of the South African players, right? So your broadcast is probably directed by a former player. Generally, a home side will never get caught for something like this because the cameras aren't watching them.
We're not the home side either, right?
We're the visiting side.
Yeah.
And the cameras were watching us like hawks. And they've caught Cameron Bancroft doing something to the ball. They didn't know exactly what, but it was like he was taking something out of his pocket, kind of like doing something to the ball and then putting it back in.
Playing with his ball.
But they couldn't see it properly. Managing his ball. But because they put that up on the screen.
Think of the children.
And then they've got a shot of the coach freaking out, talking on a walkie-talkie to one of the players who's down on the sideline, the 13th man, the guy who's not actually in the team.
Right.
And he's like ran out and told a message to Bancroft to like stop it, because basically like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, that's what the coach says.
Or like,
the coach says
the
it was, what the
TV's
hell
on
are
you.
Yeah. Basically. So he's panicked. And like, remember, he's the youngest player in the team. He's only 8 test matches into his career.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Anyway, he's panicked, pulled it out of his pocket, and put it into his undies.
The tape.
Yes. But, well, what they were calling tape.
Yeah.
The cameras caught that. So before that, they didn't actually have a shot of what he had in his pocket.
Yeah.
But at this time, they got a shot of him taking this little yellow thing out of his pocket and then putting it in his undies. Once you start putting something in your undies, you can't really say that you weren't doing something suspicious.
Yeah, it's like running from the police, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not even black, so he doesn't have an
He's
excuse.
fixing his undies.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a wedgie.
Maybe he needed some tape.
Fixing it with the small yellow thing that he put in it.
Look, I'm not judging anybody.
You can probably find it if you look up Cameron Bancroft ball taping.
Right, I was more trying
But
to
anyway.
understand what the actual thing was.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
How
So
big is
anyway,
this piece of tape?
really small, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be big,
Yeah.
right? Because the ball, it's got to actually, ideally, it's small, because
Right.
then you can hide it and no one will see what he's doing. It's really stupid though, like,
Should have just eaten it.
as if you don't know when you're touring that you have 30 cameras looking at you. You're gonna get
I
caught.
don't know. I kind of like. I see how young people act. They're not that bright.
No, but this was the leadership group. So the leadership group includes a 31-year-old, a
Yeah.
28-year-old, the captain, the vice captain, David Warner, and Steve Smith. Right. So Steve Smith has come out. He's fessed up. It's the next day. Oh, it's the end of play on the day. They've been caught.
I just love the hashtag.
The video's there.
This video sucks.
Cheataroos.
That looks like an American.
Yeah. It does.
Anyway, he's actually come out with his batsman who's been caught doing this, and
Here we
there
go.
it is.
This is it.
So that's all they had. Like, they didn't have anything
Right.
definitive, because they can't see what he's doing right now. This is the original first shot that they got, but because the
imagine
camera's on him.
That's a pretty normal movement, isn't it?
No, it's because he took something out of his pocket first.
Right.
I think it's not really shown in that, but it's like, took something out of pocket, now you're using it on the ball. Normally, it's just like you're vigorously rubbing it on your
Smith
pants.
said it was from the team's
'Cause
leadership
you're
group.
trying to smoothen it out.
Initial question.
Yeah.
Why would the captain guy admit to this?
Because he couldn't really deny it, so it was either a choice between letting Cameron Bancroft take the blame himself, or sort of owning up to it because he's a captain. I genuinely think he did it because he didn't want Bancroft to be the only one taking the blame because they decided on it as a group.
Right.
This is my initial
So it's
initial
a little
impressions.
bit honourable. A little bit.
How old is
Yeah.
He's
How old's
falling
Ban-
on his sword at least.
How old is Bancroft?
Yeah. Bancroft's 25,
Okay.
I think. Smith's 28,
Right.
and Dave Warner is 31.
So they're
so-
panicked. They're panicked.
So, no, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the original...
What an idiot.
For audio listeners, Nick's laughing at a video you can't see.
There's a shot of him, and he's clearly taking out a piece
wow.
of tape, and he's just putting his hands down his pants. It's pretty sus. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, he could at least look like he's scratching his balls or something, but he's not. He's just putting something down
Well,
his
he's put it
pants.
so far down at this point that I think that's what he was trying to make people think he was doing.
So nobody knew during the game, or were they sussing?
No,
the
no.
game?
So they did find out during the game because the cameras were getting broadcast. What the cameras were showing was getting broadcast to the big screen on the show.
far out.
That's how like they knew. That's how the coach knew to tell Bancroft, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? Because they saw it on the big screen.
It's a bit funny, the camera ops, like, zoom in on the crotch.
No, they would have been following the ball.
Yeah.
Like always following the ball, and then once they saw Bancroft do something, they would have been like follow his hands the entire time, because they have like 30 cameras. You can be like, honestly, about half of those cameras are probably trying to find a pretty girl in the audience. So I think they could spare at least one of them to do this.
Right.
So people are like really angry about this.
I was borderline depressed on Sunday.
Right.
It was genuinely sad, and my initial reaction was, I don't want to see any of these guys ever play for Australia again.
Far out.
Outrage.
Yeah.
Can you? Okay, get on your soapbox and talk about it.
No, because I've gotten off it since then. It was just
Okay.
that was the initial emotional reaction. I knew it would die down, right? It's like when it first happens, you're just like, this is sort of thing like other players have been caught ball tampering before. So the captain of the opposing side has previously been caught for rubbing the ball against his pants, but where the zipper was. So it was meant to have the same effect, like
Right,
cutting the
right.
ball up.
Ah.
Or he also had a lolly in his mouth and he was like licking the ball with his like sugary
Did you say
spit.
the same player?
The same guy. This is the captain of the opposing side, right? So Faf du Plessis, but he never admitted to doing it. Like he always had like I wasn't doing that on purpose. I wasn't rubbing it against the zipper on purpose, or I wasn't like I was just licking it like my fingers. I was putting saliva on it.
Yeah.
It just happened to be having a lolly, right? There was always plausible deniability. All of them previously have had that
Well, you'd
on
think
their
they
side.
would have outlawed lozenges or something, right?
Yeah, look, see, the part of this comes down to the ICC, which is the International Cricket Council, doesn't have good rules about this.
Right.
Like, so they handed down suspensions for Smith and Bancroft. Smith and Bancroft were Smith missed one game and loses match fee for that game, which is like nothing for a cricketer. Their match fee is not where most of their money comes from. It's from like sponsorships and from playing in T20 competitions around the world. And Bancroft was to lose 75%. So actually Smith got more punished than Bancroft, who was the one who actually did it,
Right.
because he's the one responsible for the plan. It's sort of like an acknowledgement of the fact that if you get the youngest player in the team to do something and you're the captain, it was really your fault, right?
Right. Man,
You look like you have a question.
didn't they get a lot more punished than what you just said? Like
Yeah,
heaps
so
more?
the ICC has this. These are the ICC rules, so they can just apply it straight away. They know what the punishment has to be because they've got it written down, right?
Right.
But it's really weak. It's like the equivalent of getting slapped with a wet piece of lettuce. Not the biggest deal in the world.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, I don't like that.
Well, when Smith had
Oh,
first come
wow.
out, this was like the end of the day's play. There, he's like talking about, we conspired to do this. He admits to doing it. He says it'll never happen again under my leadership. I won't be stepping down from the captaincy. He's saying all these things. I'm pretty sure he was looking at what had happened to previous players, like basically nothing. He's like, I know I've disappointed people, but he's like, he didn't fully grasp how seriously everyone would take it here.
Right.
This has been front page news for nearly a week now.
Right.
Yeah, it's
It's still the top story on most news sites in Australia at least, and it's been international
yeah,
because
it's
in
even
Indian
bigger than the
things.
scuffle they had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no,
The
that was
scuffle?
like that got a couple of things, but I think this particular tour in particular, this
Is this ball tampering? Oh, he's chewing on the
This is
thing.
I typed in cricket cheating.
okay, yeah, that's probably So he's using his tooth.
He's chewing on
He
the ball.
got less punished, and he's eating the ball.
Yeah.
Wait. So If Cameron Bancroft, is that his
Yeah.
name? Walked in tonight, said, "Hey, look, sorry."
Hmm.
What would you say to him?
Look, okay, are you talking about... I'm still going through the story. Let me
Yeah.
get to where I am right now. But earlier in the week, I was very, like, sanctimonious. I was very angry. I was like, I don't want them to ever play again.
Did you make a Facebook post about it?
I did not.
Oh, come on!
I did not.
How do people know you're outraged?
I'm starting to learn that you shouldn't just join in on social media pylons.
That's very wise of you, Jono.
Yeah. Anyway.
on his ears.
But anyway, so Cricket Australia, they're the ones in charge of their contracts and everything. They go over, they do an investigation. They've come out. They've basically gone, for a whole year, none of them can play for Australia. Well,
Jeez.
Bancroft only got 9 months.
Right.
But for a whole year, none of them can play for Australia.
Whoa. That's a lot.
It's a long
Yeah,
time.
Smith lost his captaincy like straight away. He's
Right.
Warner the vice captaincy. Smith won't be considered for leadership roles for like 2 years.
Yeesh.
Warner forever. He's never going to be considered again. It's sort of a story that's evolved over time because more information has come out.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's sort of leaning towards now that Warner was the main instigator. This is the story. So that you guys know who Richie Beno is?
Yeah.
Famous
so.
cricket commentator.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's still alive. Richie Beno's passed away. Rest in peace. The sort of the radio equivalent of Richie Beno named Jim Maxwell.
I know Jim.
Yeah, he started crying the next day
No.
when he was commentating because it was still the game was still on. The next day they were playing still. He started crying talking about this
Wow.
Yeah.
on air. Like, it was so upsetting, right?
So I need some clarification. As a
Yeah.
person who does not give a toss about cricket,
Yeah.
why does this matter so much to people? Or are you getting to that?
I've been trying... No, so that's a good question, and I've been trying to understand that. We were so much more outraged about this than any other country's ever. Part of it's the fact that they premeditated it. They got together. It wasn't just one player going, oh, I've got a lolly in my mouth, I'm going to make the ball a bit sticky. It was... They, at lunch, decided they were going to get together, premeditate to influence the game in an unfair way. Australians pride themselves a lot on playing hard but fair. That's the mantra, right? It's kind of like our national psyche, and this is our national sport. And more than any other code, it is the national sport. It's the only summer sport that actually matters to anyone. So during summer, it's just it. That's it. There's nothing competing. In winter, you could be playing soccer, you could be playing AFL, you could be playing league, you could be playing union. There's so many codes. But in summer, like, this is as close to a national sport as we have. And sport's really important to Australians. There's a saying that the Australian Test captain is the second most important person in the country after the Prime Minister. In days past, that was probably true. Like, now it's probably a bit of an exaggeration, and most people wouldn't know Steve Smith if they saw him in the walking in the street. But back in the day, that actually was true.
Which, speaking of, even the Prime Minister's weighed on this.
Yeah, he had to weigh in. He weighed in on like the next day or something. There was a hilarious Batuta Advocate article that he called Brett Lee up to explain to him swing bowling before he...
While dodging NBN questions.
Anything to
man.
take the focus off the NBA.
He was probably so happy he had something to be sanctimonious about.
Let's talk about the cricket.
Yeah, I
NB
can
what?
get on a high horse.
I might have screwed up the NBN, but at least I
Sucking
didn't.
right
At least I
now.
didn't fix the ball.
I didn't rough the NBN. Or
Oh.
It's definitely a crazy reaction. You're right. Like, I think it comes down to, like, part of it's like we kind of feel like a bit of pride that we're not like other countries. We play better than them. We have a better team. Historically, that's been true, and it's not true right now. And we always play fair, even though everyone accuses us of being really dirty and sledging and all that stuff. We always like, no, we don't cross the line. The rules, like, we stay within the rules. We play fair. And I think this just made everyone go, oh, that's not what we are. And that really hurts, right? If you think that you are something, and then something happens that makes you question that.
Right. Can I be devil's advocate here?
Yes.
Could it be like the Tour de France where everybody's doping? Everybody's doing the same thing.
If the whole team's doing it, it seems like...
No.
No, I get what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
Like, surely other teams are doing similar things.
So it's a little bit different in cricket in that everyone's always trying to manage the ball. You actually have to look after the ball really well because it's really important.
Yeah.
So you always shine the ball. You have someone on your team whose job it is, between the wicketkeeper catching the ball, it always gets passed to someone in particular. That used to be David Warner. Now it's Cameron Bancroft, or it was. And they'll like shine the ball on the right side. They'll work out what needs to be done. It's actually a really important part. And everyone's always trying to push the boundaries on this rule.
Right.
Because you're always trying to get a slight advantage. It's just sort of, that's where the lolly stuff comes in, or
Sure.
the zipper thing. Or they'll do this thing where like the middle of the pitch area is really dry and hard because they've rolled it, whereas everywhere else is grassy. So when fielders have the ball, they'll do something where they'll peg it in and try and hit it, like make it bounce on the way through, because that'll scuff up the ball a bit more.
Sure.
And they'll get called up by the umpires, but it's more like, hey, stop doing that. Not
Right.
like you've broken the rules.
Right.
Like,
So
excuse me,
it's
sir.
always pushing the boundaries,
Yeah.
but it was just like you brought something else onto the pitch so that you could do this.
Right.
It was not even like pushing the boundaries. Like you fully just went over the line. I think
And-
everyone realized, that's where the line is.
Right. Sure.
And it's the country. Like, you're
Yeah.
representing the country.
Yeah. So, okay, at this point, I'm like, see, that's part of the problem is Smith is was a really well-loved cricketer.
Right.
Like, he's like always likened to the next Don Bradman because he's really good.
That's a big
That's
thing.
massive.
Yeah.
Even a non-cricketer might understand, Don Bradman's the greatest
Yeah.
cricketer
Right.
ever by so far. Like, if you're getting compared to him, and his test batting average was second to Don Bradman
Sure.
on the list. Like, he's on 62. Don Bradman's on 99.
Right.
No one ever comes close to him, but you can get compared to him. So I think the fact that everyone loved him as well makes it hurt that much more to see him admit to cheating.
Yeah.
Full-
Right.
And also part of it was the first press conference he gave when he was saying, I won't be stepping down from captaincy, was kind of belligerent in a way. Like, he was admitting guilt and he was saying he was really sorry and it would never happen again under his leadership. But he was also saying, I won't step down,
Sure.
which is like, that's not a good way to apologize. It should be more like, I will
Humble.
take whatever you decide.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, it's not like I don't have the right to be like, I still deserve this. I think people didn't like that.
So the ICC kind of just gave him a slap on the wrist. Said,
ICC did what their rules say, which
Yeah.
are piss weak.
Right.
They just gave them the one match ban and that was it. Nothing for David Warner.
Sure.
But they've both lost all their sponsorships, right?
Ah, so yeah, get that. They were playing in the IPL, the Indian Premier League. It's the most lucrative T20 competition in the world. They were getting each paid $2.4 million for like
Wow.
a month and a half of cricket.
Jeez.
Yeah, so they were captains of their team. They were stood down as captains, and now they've been stood down from the IPL. So they've
Right.
lost $2.4 million there. Warner's lost his LG TV sponsorship.
Those are good TVs.
Bancroft and Smith were both on Weet-Bix and a bunch of other ones like ASIC and things like that. They've lost that. The estimate was that Smith and Warner are down about $4 to $5 million for the year. Cricket Australia's lost their main sponsor from the Ashes, which
Right.
was a 3-year, $20 million deal.
Is it KFC?
No, it was Magellan. It's like an investment company. So yeah, a lot of money has been lost
What
by
would
them and by cricket in general.
what would have happened if they just didn't admit it? Like, and they got investigated and
I think they couldn't say that because of the footage.
right.
I think there was just no room left to maneuver. So I think he did the honorable thing in that he was like, so part of this is that the stories sort of come out that this is how it went down in the lunchroom. Warner's talking to Bancroft because they're both the opening partners, so they're meant to have like a kind of a closer relationship, I guess. But Warner's a senior player, and they're hatching a plan. Smith has sort of gone over and gone, oh, what are you two guys talking about? Oh, actually, I don't want to know. And then gone out on the field.
Right.
Like, that was the extent of his involvement.
Sure.
But, I mean, at the same time, he kind of lied. So it turned out there was actually sandpaper. It wasn't
Right.
tape.
Oh.
So they lied.
Yeah, you can only really do one thing with sandpaper.
Yeah. Apparently,
What's
this
that?
is what I've heard is that you haven't.
Sand.
Maybe he was trying.
I hate sand.
It gets
Gets
everywhere. It's everywhere. What are they doing? Anyway, so apparently you have sandpaper in your bag in case there's like marks on your bat and you can sand them off. So people might have, but it's super fine. What they did actually did not work. So the umpires looked at the ball and were like, nah, it's still fine. There's actually a rule where on the field, if the umpires think you've done something to the ball, they can award 5 runs to the other team. And they can give you like a penalty right on the spot.
So what's the
They
problem?
looked at it and they were like, nah. But no, it was the premeditated
betrayal.
nature. It's the going out there knowing that you're going to deprive the other team of a fair contest.
They were the chosen ones, Nick.
How much of how much of an advantage are you really getting though? That's the
If
thing.
you get reverse swing, so
Yeah.
one of the Australian bowlers got reverse swing in the first game, got 5 of them out in a matter of a couple of overs.
Okay.
Once you get reverse swing, it gets pretty unplayable.
Okay.
So it's definitely a game breaker.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been, I've kind of come the other way now. So I was very upset right
Yeah.
at the start, very emotional, but now I'm sort of like, I feel really bad for these guys. They've made one stupid decision.
Yeah.
Hopefully only one. Hopefully
Sure.
they've never done it before. That's kind of the other shadow over it. It's like, well, have you ever tried this before? Or is this or just the first time you got caught?
This sounds so much worse than like, if they were, you would rather than being caught doping than like ball fixing.
I mean, look, this, like, Smith is actually a really, I think, generally an honourable character.
Yeah.
So someone like that facing this, I feel like he's going to be really depressed.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to be going through some real dark times.
Oh.
Other than the money that he's lost or any of that, it's just sort of like, you've gone from being, like, the hero to so many Australians to being, like,
Mel Gibson.
reviled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
Mel
going to have
Gibson.
to...
Well, Mel Gibson came back. Maybe
He did. He made a couple of
Yeah,
movies.
no, I genuinely hope. So at this point, I'm like, okay, a year seems really harsh, but I think it's also necessary for them, because if it's any less than that, I don't think Australians will ever get behind them.
No.
It's one of those things where you have to feel like they got punished, right?
What are we watching?
It's not an ad. I've got friggin' YouTube Red. It's just a subscribe thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think at this point the punishment was not decided on what's naturally just,
Yeah, right.
but on the basis of, well, if you come back any sooner, the Australian public's still going to hate you,
Right.
and it's not going to be good for your career. So it's sort of like the necessary period.
Gotcha.
It's similar
It's
to
like
when someone says the N-word.
Well, it's like somebody
Who's famous,
It's like
right?
it's like a mourning period. You need them to just sort of go away for a while.
Yeah. But it feels like, like punishments based on like what people think always feel the same. It's not about justice. It's about how long does it take people to forget something.
I guess. I think they'll forget in 3 months. But.
Yeah, probably.
No, we will. Cricket people don't.
Oh yeah,
They're still talking about
ooh.
that great bat they had in the 90s. Like they have long elephant memories.
How's it go? The great bad. I don't know.
Obviously, I'm not a cricket
Don
person,
Bradman.
but you know what I mean. Like the sport people are always remembering. The
Yeah,
time.
no, this will stay with, like, he's gone from someone who had an impeccable record to now just being like, oh, you've stuffed it.
So it's
You'll
like
never be able to unstuff your career.
It's like Michael Jordan ball fixing. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be.
Or Tom Brady ball deflating, but he seemed to survive that.
Well, because he could deny it. He didn't admit to premeditating going out there and I'm going to deflate
Oh,
balls.
I thought he did.
No,
gonna deflate
he never
balls.
did. There was always an accusation at the groundsman, or the guy who looks after the balls kind of had a deal with him.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady's like, no. But anyway,
Lesson learned,
that's
everyone.
cricket. And that's
Stop.
very sad. And the pylon has been a bit harsh, I think. People are
Yeah.
getting a bit self-righteous.
I'm surprised there are no movies about cricket, to be honest.
I think
There
there
is.
is.
Is there?
Yeah, but it's like
I can't
not a
remember
big
what
movie.
they are.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, they should be starring famous people.
I'm sure there are. But
Should make a Chris Hemsworth movie.
So I guess the
all the
lesson is-
Hemsworths. What's the lesson?
lesson is stop messing with your balls.
Yeah, don't play with your balls.
Don't play with
But you
sandpaper.
should check your balls in case there's any lumps.
Abnormalities.
Yes. Check your
Speaking
balls.
of abnormalities,
Look after your balls.
we're switching into entertainment. We're kind of not really doing sections this time because we're all kind of doing more than one topic and like 1.5 topics.
Yeah.
Because things are
Thanks.
getting crazy.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.